So, Damien, we just won a Gold Quality Award
We did.
for implementing BPC. Tell us about that.
So first of all, we're extremely proud and super excited to win the Gold Award. We won it in the fast delivery category for the UK and I. It was something that we wanted to do right from the very beginning. I think we had a conversation when we started the project. One of the things we mentioned was we want to make sure that quality is embedded in the project right from the very start. Yeah. There was a discussion about should we go for an SAP Quality Award some way down the track. It wasn't obviously our primary focus, but it was something that we were really keen to do. And we knew that actually we had a fantastic project, we had a fantastic team, and we had a really good chance. When we submitted the Quality Award, I think I mentioned to you that it was great to look back at the stuff that we had done. The Quality Award submission was quite intense. There was a lot of questions, and when we went back, we thought, wow, we've achieved a lot in a very short space of time. People really like what we've delivered. We did it in a way that was fairly unique at BAT, in an agile way, and we'll talk about that as we go through. And then when SAP provided us with the award, I kind of thought, we deserve it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yes, congratulations also to you.
So, I mean, I'm curious, what do you think really made it stand out to SAP in the judging panel for that? What do you think kind of separated our project to others going through the same process?
I think there was a couple of things, and not just from our side, but also from your side as well. I think one of the key things that they picked up on was our belief in the project and our passion. So when we presented to them, it wasn't fake. We didn't have a list of things that we wanted to do. We kind of said, hey, this is what we've done. We've done it in a very short space of time. We had a sort of a strap line of 500, right?
Yeah,
we had a small team, 5 people. We delivered it in under 5 months, and we had under 500 consulting days. And we delivered a solution that was global. So this was going to work and roll out to 185 countries across the world, across 4 regions, 53,000 employees. We run about 2.2 billion worth of total employment cost through. And when you look at the scale of that and the amount of time we implemented it in, I think they couldn't help but be impressed.
Yeah,
I mean, even I was.
Yeah, yeah. I think there were a few things about the implementation that we did kind of differently to some other projects that have been run in similar ways, like running a prototype when we started. Just doing something in 3 weeks. No, even less than that, maybe 2.5 weeks.
2.5. We did it in 2.5 weeks. I'm a massive believer in show me something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I may not be the norm in project management or the way projects are delivered, but I could care less about paper. I don't want to see reams of paper which say, here are all of the lovely requirements and yada, yada. I want a product that I can see. I like the way, if someone is building a physical product, let's say engineers, architects, they have blueprints, they have plans, but they have a model, right? And they use that to get buy-in, to show people, to visualize, and you can really start to build a level of excitement. And people can see something and they think, yes, I like it, or actually, something that we encouraged, I don't like it. Right?
Yep.
But you get that early on, and you don't get that with paper. So, one of the things we talked about very early on was let's do a prototype, and let's do it properly, but let's also do it fast. There was some smoke and mirrors, of course. We had 2.5 to 3 weeks, but we were able to take that to a very senior audience, show them what they were going to get, and they bought into it. And then, within a few months after that, the project was up and running. And the nice thing is that when we went into requirements or when we went into design, we had something to show people, and we could say, hey, this is what you're going to get. And they could give us feedback accordingly. And they did in spades.
Yeah. Whereas if we spent ages documenting things right up front, stuff could change. Like you said, we don't get everything right first time. We ran that prototype. There were a few things that we needed to change. We would have had to gone back and undone a bunch of the documentation that we delivered. So we saved a lot of time.
Yeah, I've project managed various projects in SAP going back to the 90s, right? And we've all had projects where we do the traditional, let's write the requirements, let's go back and forth, let's build it, test it, and right at the very end, let's show it to the users, and they turn around and say, that's not what I wanted. There's 1,000 Dilbert cartoons. We're supposed to learn from our mistakes. I kind of say that if we did a similar thing in IT that they do in heart surgery, for example, there'd be people dying on the table, like literally still every day, because no one has learned the lessons from the last one. And in IT, we need to be better with that. Right?
Yeah.
We really need to look back and say what worked and what didn't. I'm a firm believer in show something, prototype, collaborate. Even if it's not going to be perfect, at least people can see, and that's how we ran the project, and I think that's why we won the award. It was very iterative, and we really encouraged feedback, negative and positive.
Yeah, the earlier you find issues, the earlier you can resolve those, the lower the risk is for the project as a whole. You're going to get a better.
Let me turn it around to you. For example, you're our systems implementer. I mean, how was it for you, that way of working? Because, I pushed it quite hard, I think, at times.
Yeah, I think it's the only way that I've seen, in the BPC projects really run successfully. Making sure that we collaborate really well. We have a project team that's quite small but empowered to make business decisions. And we show demos as quickly as possible. Get users logging onto the system, see what they think. Every project that I've run, no matter how good the UAT and the testing is, you're going to find users that haven't really thought about how the system will affect their day-to-day job until they actually use it for real.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to accept on a project that your first release, your first go live, you're likely to need to do some iterations on that. And I always think that it's better to maybe restrict the scope to a first phase and expand on that in future. So a lot of people are a bit concerned about implementing, we say agile projects at a large company like BAT. What do you think about that?
It's a really good question, right? Because agile means different things to different people. I know it's a very specific methodology. I guess we were running a large global project, right? So we took the essence of agile. We still at BAT had to adhere to our own project lifecycle methodology. But the nice thing is that we had the flexibility. So what we took from agile was the iterative, the collaborative, the visualization. Did we have specific sprints that were 1 week, 2 weeks long? In some cases, yes, but mostly no, because a lot of our build was a lot longer. But we still took the principles of actually showing it back to our users. One of the things that I was going to mention in IT, we obviously have a phrase of, don't ask the users, they don't know what they want, type of thing. And clearly that's just not right. But what you need to do is you need to make sure that you can get the right things out of the user. And having that type of approach where you visualize means that you can get the right responses, you can ask the right questions, and the same for them. They can ask the right questions.
Yeah.
When we do it in the old way, the paper way, you just are never going to get really what the user actually thinks in their head.
Yeah. I mean, one of the challenges with a large scope implementation like this, rolling it out to most countries in the world, is change management, right? So
yes.
I think one of the things we can touch on how we approach training, but is there anything that kind of stands out to you in terms of how we tackled that?
Yeah, people always say that, like change management is the biggest thing and you always underestimate it. And I think in every project you do. We have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of time, and you need to pick the most important things. For sure. I mean, I'll be completely honest. We missed a trick or two in change management when we were rolling out. We had a tendency to focus on the HR community, the users who were, day to day going to use the tool. But we were part of a much broader business planning cycle. We had operations and marketing and, of course, finance using BPC. They were all accessing the solution, and HR was providing a very large component of overhead cost. And what we found as we rolled out was that we needed far more communication with the finance community. We needed communication with the operations community, because we found out in our first rollout, hey, this needs to be there for product costing. Oh, whoops. It wasn't a massive disaster, but it was something that we probably should have thought out in the beginning. So we started to bring that in, but it meant that even though this was a fast project, the level of change management that went around it was as much as a large transformation project, and we really had to handle that in a smart way.
Yeah. I think we handled the change management quite well on the HR side, like you said. With the way we implemented training, I really, really liked. Just going to each end market in person and giving them effectively a dashboard so that they could see their progress on all the exercises.
I think one of the things that I liked the most was our training approach. Yeah. And we had to fight for it, right? Budgets were getting tighter to try and convince people that this training should not be done through e-learning or remotely on Skype, God forbid, was a real challenge. And I stuck to my guns. I dug my heels in and I said, we are going to see people face to face. Let's do it smart. Let's bring key users into key locations and do train the trainer, but we are going to see them face to face. We are going to have a collaborative training. We're going to use their data, which was one of the things that we did. I thought it was fantastic. And we made it competitive, right? We had a dashboard and people could see instantly how they were doing. Occasionally it was embarrassing. Occasionally it meant we had to go back at midnight and redo the training data. But it really got them involved. And when we left, we had great scores by the users for our training methodology.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the business case, because that's one of the things that some clients really, really struggle with to put together for BPC and to put numbers against it, right?
Yeah.
So how did we tackle that this time?
And especially in HR as well, because you have a lot of soft things. We were part of a larger transformation, putting in success factors. So there's a part of the business case that was probably more to do with the transformational side. So I'll leave that out. But specifically for BPC, we had a global consolidation time for around 6 weeks. We used to send out about 350 Excel spreadsheets. We actually didn't know how many we sent out because they got split up. They would then be filled in with whatever data someone felt like at the time, because there was not a lot of control. They would come back to the center and it would be nearly 2 months before a consolidated view was obtained. Yeah. And that was predominantly just for headcount. Then conversely, on the other side, finance were doing the employment cost numbers. And there was sometimes just no correlation between the headcount and the total employment cost. So any analysis was meaningless in a way. And what we did is we brought it all together. So we now have a single source of truth. We have HR, finance, volume data, all sitting in one place. All of the planning data is there. It's verifiable, it's audited, the calculations are automatic, and the time to consolidate is literally 0. So, well, I think the package runs in maybe a minute or 2, right? So let's call it 2 minutes. But that's a remarkable achievement. Plus taking out all of the local planning tools. And we found anecdotally, because we had trouble measuring it before, which is one of the other problems in these business cases, it would be great if I knew what the baseline was. But we found a minimum increase in data quality and accuracy of 2% across the board. That's the absolute minimum.
Yeah.
And so that's remarkable for us.
And we've got the added control as well, right? Because I think Victor, who runs the HR consolidation project in the old tool, who did all that consolidation work, he always complained that he didn't know what end users were doing and they would all do different things. But now we can track exactly when people log in and what they're doing in the system.
Absolutely. I mean, the process is 100% aligned. We are 3/4 of the way through. So we're through Asia Pac, Western Europe, and most of Eastern Europe. We have the Americas yet to do. So we still have a comparison against what the old way is like.
Yeah.
And it's really painful, the old way. So Victor is super chuffed. He's our key sponsor. And he was one of our project team members, right? So one of the other things is having the right people on the project.
Yeah.
I prefer projects to be small. So we had a team of 5. Okay, there was 3 from Bluefin, and there was essentially 2 from our side. And that's how we ran it. And each one of those people could make decisions. They were experts in their own right. They knew exactly what they were doing. And we could go super quick, and we did.
So if you were to take anything from this project, this experience, and as a lesson learned for next time, what would you pull out?
For me, the most important thing is know where you're going, okay? I don't mean detailed requirements. Have a vision for where you're going. Be able to articulate it, sell it. We have to be in IT. We're kind of running a business, right? We're creating a product. We need to sell it, and we need to take people on a journey. So do that. But that's harder than you think, right?
Yeah.
Getting requirements is easy. Having a vision and knowing what good looks like and what the end state should be, that's hard. But do that up front, and you're pretty much home and hosed, I think. Yeah. The rest will follow as you go through the project.